What's going on, bottom line viewers? It's Mitch back here with another NFL weekly review, the weekly show where I recap, react, and analyze the latest week in the NFL. This time for week number 14 of the 2022 NFL season. Gronk, spike that like button. Don't forget to subscribe if you are new. And let's get started. My question for you this week is, who is the 7th best team in the NFL? Everybody likes to do their power rankings, myself included. Everybody likes to rank things, especially NFL teams. Let me know your 7th best team in the NFL. Why do I say 7th? Well, to me, one of the lessons of week number 14 was that there are 6 definitive good teams that rank above the rest in the NFL. In no particular order: the Philadelphia Eagles, the San Francisco 49ers, the Dallas Cowboys in the NFC, the Buffalo Bills, the Kansas City Chiefs, and the Cincinnati Bengals in the AFC. 3 teams for each conference that I feel are a tier above the rest of the NFL. But the question is, who is the 7th best team? Let me know in the comments, and of course you'll get my answer on my NFL Power Ranking show. The first thing I want to discuss here is the big game of the week for my channel, for my brand, for the BLV. That was the Tampa Bay Buccaneers and Tom Brady taking on Kyle Shanahan and the San Francisco 49ers. You guys know that Tom Brady is my favorite player of all time, my favorite quarterback of all time, and I do root for the Bucs. You guys know that Kyle Shanahan is my favorite coach right now in the NFL, and also the coach that I believe is the best in the NFL. So I was looking forward to this matchup quite a bit. I was also looking forward to seeing Brock Purdy's first ever NFL start and trying to get a handle on whether or not he can bring success to the Niners this year. If they can still be a contender, if they can still be successful this year with Brock Purdy, without Jimmy Garoppolo, without Trey Lance, can they be that team that can still represent the NFC? And the 49ers looked pretty good in week number 14. They made a statement. There's no way around it. The 49ers made a statement. Like I said last week, look out for the 49ers. Don't discount the 49ers, because what can they do? First of all, they have a wizard of a head coach who has a marvelous scheme. The only guy that I can think of that can completely take the quarterback out of his offense and still have an elite offense built on playmakers, built on yards after catch, built on run game, built on making plays look like other plays. His design, his detail, and his coaching and his teaching is what elevates this offense. The quarterback is simply the distributor. He is the manager. He is not the star. The star is the scheme. The star is the play calling. And the star is the guys that get the football from that distributor. Brock Purdy can do that. He proved that in this game. Brock Purdy, in this game, looked a lot like Jimmy Garoppolo. But what I like about Brock Purdy here in this game is he did a couple things I feel better than Jimmy Garoppolo, or at least surprised us. His movement in and out of the pocket, I thought, was really good and kind of unexpectedly awesome in the game. His ability to move around, his ability to manipulate the pocket, his ability to avoid sacks, his ability to extend plays, and also his ability to make throws down the field outside the numbers. Something that Garoppolo has never been good at and has rarely actually been seen in this offense, making plays down the field outside the numbers. Brock Purdy made a couple throws to Christian McCaffrey, to Brandon Ayuk, down the field, outside the numbers. Some big plays. He also avoided sacks more often than I feel Jimmy could have. And he brings that dimension of the PA boot game that Shanahan and especially his father's scheme was built on, Mike Shanahan in Denver, where they used to get their quarterbacks outside the pocket with some movement, Jimmy Garoppolo isn't quite the mover that Brock Purdy is. So those movement skills and that scrambling ability to pick up a few extra yards on a scramble is actually, I think, a plus to this offense. There was a number of plays that Brock Purdy made in this game that weren't spectacular, but he just kept getting completions. He kept moving the offense forward, and he kept the offense on schedule. There were not a lot of plays in this game where the Niners had negative plays, where the Bucs had sacks, where Purdy was put in a situation on 3rd and long where he had to make a big play. There were very, very few. Very few. That's because of the script. That's because of the play calling. That's because of the execution. But that's also because of Purdy's ability to throw accurate passes, his ability to avoid sacks, his ability to scramble, his ability to just simply take the check down when it's there, take the profit when it's there. And I really like what I've seen from Brock Purdy over the last 2 games against Miami and Tampa Bay. 2 sort of similar defenses in the way that they want to pressure, they want to be aggressive, they want to attack you. But I felt like the Niners really exposed the Bucs in this game from that side of the football. I thought they ran it well. I thought they threw it well. I thought they play actioned. I thought they screened. I thought they did everything in this game to the way that they wanted it and the way they calculated it. And I felt Purdy did an excellent job in his execution. So Purdy continues to prove that he can play at this level in this offense and that he is simply the manager. He is simply the distributor. And if he can be that distributor, like I said last week, this is nothing I haven't said before. The scheme is the star. The scheme is the star. Kyle is the face, right? The supporting actor is the quarterback. The star is not the quarterback. And the defense is the best in the game. The playmakers are the best after the catch in the game. They make that quarterback go. And that is how the Niners win. That is how the Niners win. So that is how they will continue to win. And that is their formula for success. It's clear as day. The identity is there for the Niners to continue to have success. So good on Purdy. I do want to say, I don't know what it is, but can we stop pretending that Kyle Shanahan is not the best coach in the NFL? I don't understand why I'm the only one that is bold enough or wise enough or intelligent enough. I don't know what it is. Why will no one else admit this other than myself? Is it his record from 2017 and 2018 that has people hesitant? I don't really understand why people are hesitant to crown this guy or to at least talk about him a little bit more than we are. Maybe we just talked about him so much during 2016 and 2019 that people are kind of over it. I'm not sure what it is. Let me know what you guys think in the comments. But this guy's the best in the game. There's no other coach in the game where you have Brock Purdy, Mr. Irrelevant, and all of a sudden he's not only looking relevant, but this team looks like a Super Bowl team against a Tom Brady-led opponent. I understand the Bucs aren't very good, but this is still Tom Brady's team at the end of the day. 35-7. 35-7. The 49ers. Just putting quarterbacks in. Doesn't matter. This is the 3rd quarterback that Kyle Shanahan has had this year. He's winning with this quarterback. And not only that, I think the thing that we don't talk about enough with Shanahan is his impact on defense. Because we always talk about his play calling. We always talk about Kyle's ability to design offense, Kyle's ability to call plays, Kyle's ability to get the most out of the quarterback position, get the most out of the run game, all this offensive stuff. We crown him as the wizard of offense, but we don't talk about how great his teams have been from a defensive standpoint, despite having different defensive coordinators. Right? This guy had Robert Saleh, number 1 defense in the NFL. This guy has had DeMeco Ryans, number 1 defense in the NFL. If you're the head coach, you should get part of that acclaim, part of the credit there. because Kyle is responsible for hiring these guys, first of all. And second of all, this is his thought, his vision for how he wants his defense to play. Physical, tough, and fast. He wanted this scheme. There's a reason he brings in these coordinators. And he's a smart guy. He's not just an offensive coach. I think that's the thing that is the misconception about him as a football mind. He's also an excellent defensive mind. In order to be the level that he is as an offensive play caller, he needs to understand defense. And I don't think he gets enough credit for that, especially when he has a quarterback like Brock Purdy and he understands that he has to play through his defense to a certain degree. This week was a little bit different, but I just don't think we give the credit to him that we should for the defensive performance as well. Over the last 3 or 4 years, they've been very consistent as the best defense in the NFL over those last 3 to 4 years with different coordinators. So it's time to give him some credit for that. Now, let's talk about the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. The first thing that is going to be brought up about this game from the Bucs perspective is that Tom Brady is washed. Brady is no longer any good. Brady can't do it. Brady can't win. It's all his fault. They're terrible. And of course, the haters come out in a game like this, and that's understood. I've seen it for years. Tom Brady is not the best quarterback in the league. Tom Brady is not a top 3 or a top 5 quarterback any longer. But to say he's washed is just not understanding football. It's just not understanding the Bucs, their situation, and not understanding Tom Brady right now. I mean, this Tom Brady looks a lot like the Tom Brady that I stood up for in 2019. The guy that had nothing around him offensively, the guy that they couldn't protect, the guy that none of his receivers got open. It was just a complete disaster, and Tom Brady was frustrated, and he had it with the New England Patriots offensively in 2019. And then he goes to the Bucs. He wins the Super Bowl in 2020. He throws for 40 touchdowns. 2021, arguably should have been the MVP, throws for another 40 touchdowns. And now we see 2022. Well, what's wrong with Tom Brady? In this game against the Niners, did he miss a couple throws? One to Julio, one to Evans, one to Scotty Miller. Yeah, he missed a couple throws. But it's everything around him that is collapsing in on Tom Brady. Right? The offensive line is clearly not good. And people can't really understand this because it's difficult to watch because Tom Brady is getting rid of the ball so fast that it looks like the offensive line play is actually above average or good. But Brady does such a good job of avoiding negative plays and such a good job of finding the receiver or getting rid of the ball so that he doesn't get hit or sacked that it looks like it's Brady's fault, but it's actually the offensive line because they can't protect him long enough. He doesn't trust them. Now, the counter argument to that would be maybe he should hang in the extra second. Well, the problem is that these receivers are not getting open enough, or this offense is not making enough plays for him in order to hit a receiver open. And how many times did we actually see a Buck receiver open that Brady didn't have to throw open or make a tight window throw? It's just like 2019. Every time Brady is making a throw or a completion that is not a check down or a throw to the running back or the tight end out of the flat, it's a bullet on the money, back shoulder, in between two defenders, in tight coverage. How many times do we see just an open crosser for Chris Godwin, wide open? How many times did you see that with Brock Purdy in this game? Quite a few. That's Kyle Shanahan, right? That's not Brock Purdy. With Tom Brady, every single completion for this guy that is past 5 yards is tight window because Mike Evans isn't the same player. Chris Godwin is not the same player. Julio Jones is not the same player. They don't have Gronk. The running backs, Fournette's not the same player. The offensive line can't protect long enough for these receivers to maybe have that extra chance to get open down the field. So there's a lot around him that's a mess. And to me, that's why I want to see Tom Brady play another season in 2023. Because it's not Tom Brady. Am I saying he's still great? and this epic MVP level quarterback? No, but I do think he could be very productive, 30 to 40 touchdown productive, if he had the pieces that he had the last couple of years. He just doesn't have that any longer. And I don't think he's moving the way or throwing the ball the way that he did last year. I felt like he was in such a good place last year. This year, he's just been a little off, and I think it's been caused a lot by the situation around him, as well as his personal life early in the year. I think that's taken away from his production. So that's why I'm frustrated by the Bucs and Tom Brady's play, because I know he could be playing better and producing better, and still can win games and championships right now. It's just the Bucs are the issue. And we look at this game, I felt like this was a very weird game for a 35-7 blowout. I thought this was like one of the closest 35-7 games I've ever seen. And I know that sounds funny or whatever, but to me, it's true. I mean, we look at what unfolded in the game. There was quite a few weird ref calls early in the game. The first play of the game was a high hit on Brock Purdy that gave the Niners a first down, and they end up scoring a touchdown. That would have been like a 7 or 8 yard sack loss, made it 2nd and long. The Niners likely punt on that drive if that's not a call that was very borderline, to say the least. The first drive of the game, Tampa Bay drives down the field, and Todd Bowles weirdly, oddly decides to kick a field goal from 55 yards out. They miss that. Gives a short field to the Niners on that drive. The drive following for Tampa Bay, they have a touchdown called back for holding on Donovan Smith. Donovan Smith has been getting touchdowns called back regularly all year long. I don't know what's up with him, but he has been an absolute disaster for the Bucs in terms of these big plays being called back. So just those few plays alone. There was another one where Purdy throws an interception to Anthony Nelson later in the game, and then the play after they throw a touchdown to Brandon Ayuk because the interception got called back for some phantom pass interference to Carlton Davis. So there was quite a few plays in the game that made the Niners end result 35-7 as the winner of the game. But the game more felt like a 28-14, 28-17 type of game, because we had a number of drives where Brady actually threw 2 interceptions in Niners territory. They got down to the 5-yard line and they couldn't score on 4th down and goal, where Brady missed Evans in the end zone. Not sure what happened on that play. Miscommunication, bad throw. Don't really know what that was. So there was a number of 4th down turnovers inside Niners territory. I mean, it was just a snowball effect of bad ref calls, Niners getting the lead, Niners being able to pass rush, and then the Bucs just completely couldn't come back or couldn't make enough plays to come back. And I'm not going to completely write off the Bucs' ability to get to the playoffs still due to this division, but I just don't think it's fair to completely say, oh, they're terrible, they're one of the worst teams in the league. This is a very good Niners team. I think the Bucs, if this game were played again, the end result would not be 35-7. I would expect the Niners to win, but I don't think it would be 35-7 based on what I saw in that game. I thought the Bucs offense actually moved the ball better than the score indicated, is my bottom line there. But the bottom line with the Bucs is no identity, no details in the coaching. I mean, Todd Bowles looked lost all game long. Kyle Shanahan was coaching circles around the dude. And the biggest thing with the Bucs is they can't rise to the level that they need to against good teams this year. They weren't able to rise to the Chiefs level. They weren't able to rise to the Niners level. And this is going to be very important. This Bengals game is the season next week. Why do I think it's the season? Regardless of whether or not they beat the Falcons and the Panthers to get to the playoffs, that doesn't really matter to me. Win or lose, they have to rise to the Bengals level. This game is at home. They're underdogs. They need to be able to rise and play a great game. Win or lose, this game needs to be close. If it's not, write them off completely. They are not even going to make the playoffs. I'm going to pick the Panthers to win the division, Because if they come out and lay an egg and lose 28-10, they just don't have it. That something there mentally, something there from a message perspective is not being registered by this football team. Okay? So that's how I feel about the Bucs right now. I'm not counting on them to do anything this year, but this game against the Bengals is the season for me. And it's not about the win or the loss, because that ultimately won't matter as much. It's the level of play and the energy and the passion that they display. That is what it is for me. The final thing I want to say about this game, I know I'm going long, is the Trey Lance defenders. Like, guys, can we figure it out yet? Can we please figure out that Trey Lance is not going to be the guy long term? Like, how many quarterbacks do we need to see to come into this offense and be really good and be really productive and have great EPA and have great passer ratings and put up a ton of yards? I mean, we saw it with Nick Mullins. We saw it with CJ Beathard. We've seen it with Brian Hoyer. We've seen it with Jimmy Garoppolo. We saw it with Matt Shaw back in the day. We saw it with Matt Ryan winning MVPs and going to the Super Bowl. We've seen it with Brock Purdy. I mean, how many quarterbacks do we need to have in this offense to understand, first of all, the type of quarterback, but also that maybe Trey Lance is just not very good? I mean, I understand he doesn't have a lot of experience. I understand he got hurt, and I'm not saying that that is not unfortunate. But from the pocket presence to the decision-making, to the accuracy especially, and mechanics, Trey Lance doesn't suit this team, doesn't suit this offense. Maybe he'll be better elsewhere, but he is not the answer for the Niners long-term, in my opinion. Brock Purdy is more likely to be the long-term answer than Trey Lance. And I will stand by that right now. I have seen nothing from Trey Lance that suggests that he works for this Shanahan Niners team. So we've got to get off of that. I don't understand it. I don't understand the defenders. What is telling you to defend this guy from a performance standpoint? He's done absolutely nothing in San Francisco so far. Okay, let's move on. So the next topic is the Detroit Lions, Minnesota Vikings, and that game. Are the Detroit Lions legit? And of course, the regression that hit the Vikings this past week. First of all, there's a lot of Lions praise going around, as there should be. As there should be. They've been playing a lot better. Their offense is humming. Their defense is playing with a lot of fire right now. And the Vikings, there's a lot of I told you so's. There's a lot of I told you the Vikings aren't very good. I told you they'd eventually lose. I told you they were lucky. All this stuff, right? Now, when it comes to the Lions, I first want to start with Jared Goff. I have not always been the biggest fan of Jared Goff. I have not always defended Jared Goff. But I think Jared Goff continues to be this quarterback where he can play in the league. He can be at least average if you put him around a supporting cast that can play to the way that he wants to play. And when you look at Detroit, I think the best thing they've done for Jared Goff is understand how Jared Goff can be successful. And that is with a running game, with play action, what Sean McVay did with him at a high level, how they were able to go to the Super Bowl. You allow him to feel like he's protected, feel like he can make those throws down the field, and he can make those throws. Like, he has a good arm. He can see the field. I think he's a wiser quarterback. I think he's a smarter quarterback. I think he's a more experienced quarterback now than what he was before in LA or with the Rams. Like, I feel Jared Goff is playing his best football of his career. I don't think that's an exaggeration. I don't think that's a misleading headline right now. I think Jared Goff's playing the best football of his career, and I think it's because he's making better decisions than he ever has. I think it's because he understands how to play under pressure now better than he used to. I think he used to get a little bit scared, for the lack of a better word, versus pressure. And I think he does a better job of managing that. And I think he's throwing the ball really, really well and putting the ball on the money and just keeping his offense on script and completing a ton of passes and big plays. He's not just checking it down. He's doing a good job of taking what's there, but also making big plays down the field as well. And this offense is playing to the way that they need to play with Jared Goff. Run the ball, play action, protect, and Jared Goff will be successful. On top of that, the biggest reason the Detroit Lions have turned this around and look like a real threat to make the playoffs, it doesn't have anything to do with the offense. The offense has been good all year. Did they go through a little bit of a slump versus a couple of good defenses? Did they look lousy versus New England? Yes. But the defense, it went from absolutely butt cheeks to average. Like, the defense just is not a disaster anymore. It's really that simple. You look at the defense, and they had 4 sacks in this game. They were credited with 2 fumbles in the game. And the Lions, early in the game, weren't really moving the ball. Very early in the game, the Vikings haven't had an opportunity against the Lions' old defense of old this season. The Vikings would have drove right down the field, would have gained the lead, and played on their terms. In this game, the Lions' defense held serve. The Lions' defense made plays. And really, this win was started, energized by the big stop on 4th and 1 by Jeff Okudah on Cook in the backfield. There was a big stop on 4th and 1. The Lions then drive, and they scored. Jameson Williams, huge touchdown, first of his career. Shout out to you, my number 1 receiver of this draft class, even over my guy Christian Watson, and I'm expecting big things for years to come. But Jameson Williams, that could be a guy where if the Lions do make the playoffs, he might be hitting his stride right there because he's coming off that ACL. It's going to take time for him to get used to this NFL and also pick up that speed that we know he has. It's going to take him a little bit of time, but shout out to him for that big touchdown. That's a weapon. Another one. And this offense has a lot of weapons. Like, yeah, Jared Goff's playing the best football he's ever played, but don't underestimate these weapons. Amon-Ra St. Brown, Jamal Williams, and DeAndre Swift. They don't even have TJ Hawkinson, but, I mean, Josh Reynolds, DJ Chark, Jameson Williams, good receiving core, great offensive line. Penei Sewell, big play call to get them a big play. Just the right play at the right time. Huge momentum play and a huge game-winning play. And that's the biggest thing with the Lions that they haven't always been able to do. You know, when you look back to the Stafford years and the Stafford seasons, making those big plays on offense and defense at the big moments in the game. And that's what decided this game. The Lions making big turnovers on defense, big plays on offense, big conversions. They even missed a field goal in this game. Going into halftime, they could have taken a 2-score lead. They were able to overcome that and still win this game. Now, was this score a bit misleading? Yeah, a little bit. Like, was the Justin Jefferson play a bit of bullshit? Yeah, it was a bit of bullshit. By the way, Justin Jefferson, I think, had over 200 yards in this game, which is absolutely ludicrous, and I didn't even realize that, but that's unbelievable. The guy continues to be unbelievable. But you look at the Vikings, and I think there's a lot of things to be learned here from the Vikings standpoint. The Vikings, first of all, I think the biggest thing they could do to help their offense, because they seemingly are very inconsistent, and I think it is because they try to run the ball too much. And I understand this is kind of like, because Kevin O'Connell comes from the Rams, and he really believes in like that balance, run-pass balance. The Vikings are not a very good running team. I don't understand why they try to run it as much as they do when they have Kirk Cousins, Justin Jefferson, Adam Thielen, TJ Hawkinson, KJ Osborne. I think they should be throwing the ball a little bit more than they do. I think if they just throw the ball a little bit more, get some easy completions on early downs, I think that would help them be a little bit more consistent and efficient for this offense and be able to possess the ball a bit more. Because I think the biggest reason they lost this game is their over-reliance on the run game, the Lions' ability to stop the run, the Lions' ability to make those stops and make them one-dimensional. And then you see Aiden Hutchinson making these crazy plays. On top of that, you've got the Vikings in the second half. They didn't even have 10 minutes of possession. They didn't even have the ball for 10 minutes in the second half. The entire second half. They didn't even have the ball for 10 minutes. So when you're not running the ball well enough, and they haven't for weeks, you've got to be able to maybe loosen those dials and move them a little bit towards the pass. And with Justin Jefferson playing the way he does, those are easy drive starters. Just treat him like Cooper Kupp last year for the Rams and get those drives going. But the biggest thing that's concerned me with the Vikings, and I've continuously said it on my power ranking shows, has been the defense. And the defense continues to be absolutely pathetic and putrid. Like, when they're not stopping people in the red zone, they have massive issues and massive problems. This defense, for the 5th straight game, has allowed over 400 yards, which is the longest streak in franchise history. This is one of the worst Vikings defenses they have ever had. 464 yards in this game. 5th straight game over 400 yards against some offenses like the Jets, the Patriots, like not good offenses. Like, it's bad. So the Vikings are not going to go anywhere in the playoffs if this defense does not get better, because they're not going to be able to score 30 every game, especially against teams like Dallas, Philadelphia. I mean, I'd even question if they could score 30 against a team like the Bucs or Washington. I mean, so I don't know. Like, it's tough. Like, the Vikings are an inconsistent offense with a lot of big plays, and I think Cousins makes some big throws, and I think Jefferson's amazing, but their run game is not what it was, and the defense just doesn't get enough stops, doesn't make enough plays, and that's a huge issue for them. Next, the Bills and the Jets. I found what Robert Saleh said after the game about we are going to see these guys again. I thought that was very interesting. I was kind of confused why he said that. Like, I kind of feel like that's a bit dumb to say. It's a bit, I understand there's confidence in that statement, but like, I don't know. I don't really understand why you would say that. Like, if you see them again, you see them again. But I will say this about the Jets. Like, the AFC doesn't want to play the Jets in the playoffs. Like, the Jets don't have a great offense. They don't have a great quarterback. Mike White has been good, tough, what they've needed for their team. But the defense, man, this Jets defense, a lot of people are looking at the Bills and saying, oh, the offense isn't the same. They're not playing that good. First of all, the Bills offense was playing the Jets defense. And on top of that, they were playing in the snow. Like, it was snowing, it was hailing, it was raining. It was a mix of a disaster weather-wise. And they're playing this Jets defense, which this might be crazy to say. I kind of think, I know they're not statistically the best defense in the league. I kind of think the Jets defense is better than the Niners defense. I kind of do. I think the Niners offense is a lot better than the Niners defense is. The Jets offense is. So I think it makes the Niners defense look better. They're very similar. Like, don't get me wrong. They have similar strengths. I think the Jets secondary is better, though. I think the Jets' ability to cover is better. I think both teams are very fast and play with a ton of vicious passion out there, and they hit hard, they defend the run, they rush the passer, they do it all. I think the Niners are a bit more creative defensively. I think they do a good job of adjusting and coaching a bit better than the Jets do. I think the Jets, and these are both guys that were defensive coordinators for Kyle Shanahan, by the way. Robert Saleh's defense right now, I just think with Sauce Gardner and DJ Reed and the guys they've got in the secondary, they can cover like elite receivers, I think, a bit better, and these passing games a bit better. And I think that's what makes them such a uniquely tough matchup for the AFC. I don't think any AFC team, the Bengals, the Chiefs, the Bills, in particular, the elite AFC teams, don't want to play the Jets, because this type of defense, especially if it's in bad weather in a location like Buffalo or Kansas City, They don't want to play this team because if the Jets just get a little bit from their offense, from their playmakers, like Garrett Wilson and Mike White makes a couple plays, they can steal a game. Like this Jets team kind of reminds me a little bit of the Rex Ryan teams where they're just so good on defense that the elite teams don't want to face them, right? These Jets teams, that era of Jets teams beat Brady in the playoffs, beat Peyton Manning in the playoffs, beat the Chargers in the playoffs. So, that is what this team kind of reminds me of, where their defense is just so damn good that they could beat Josh Allen, they could beat Patrick Mahomes, and I wouldn't be that surprised. Quinnen Williams is an absolute freaking monster. The guy went out of the game, and then the Bills started moving the ball. That was no coincidence. That guy is spectacular, but this defense does everything well. Like, there's really no weakness to them. I could maybe look at the Niners defense and say, their corners aren't that great. I don't think the Jets have that issue, so that just, again, the Jets are amazing on defense. The Bills offense, I'm not too worried about. But I will say this about the Bills. I think if they can continue to play defense like this in these bad weather games. Remember last year when they had this low point in the season where they were being ran all over? That hasn't really happened this year. They had a little bit of a dip in their play, don't get me wrong. But it wasn't because of the defense, just not being able to stop anything. Like the Bills, if their defense can play championship caliber and they don't have to rely on Josh Allen to be an absolute specimen every game, they could go on to win that Super Bowl. Like, that is the difference for me. Like, last year, it felt like it was Allen or bust for them. This year, it feels like if they could just be a bit more balanced on both sides of the ball, Allen is going to have games where he throws 4 touchdowns and has 400 yards, total yards. If he doesn't have to do that every game, that's the true sign of them potentially going to the Super Bowl and winning the Super Bowl. Because he's going to have a couple performances where he's amazing. But if he can survive and they can survive as a team, winning games where he doesn't play his best or the offense doesn't put up 35, then that is where you could see them win the Super Bowl. That is the true testament of the Bills' ability to win this year, the whole thing or not, in my opinion. Another team that does look pretty darn good is the Philadelphia Eagles. The Philadelphia Eagles looked unstoppable again against the New York Giants, which I said to myself, I don't know why I listened to certain people. Like, that was one of those games where I just got too caught up in, just the spot for the Eagles and the Giants and the importance to the Giants at home to, keep this close. And early in the week, I was like, no brainer. That's the Eagles all day. -7. Let's take it. And I went all the way to the other side. And it was easily the dumbest bet of the week. And one of the dumbest bets I've made all season was the Giants +7. One of the only ones I got wrong on my best bets this week. So the Giants, clearly kind of looking a little bit like Tennessee right now. And it's funny that the Eagles have played these teams back-to-back weeks. But I think it's partly Eagles and it's partly the competition. So the Eagles have just destroyed 2 weeks in a row the Titans and the Giants. Both teams that are very similarly built and both teams that are very similarly one-dimensional, right? And I think the Eagles look like this juggernaut, and they are the best team in the league, in my opinion, right now. But I think they've looked better because they've beaten up on teams that have good records but are not as good as their record. Because their coaching is amazing, but the Eagles are just so much more talented than the Giants, so much more talented than the Titans. And those one-dimensional teams are exposed against a team like the Eagles because they're such a complete team. And that's what makes the Eagles dangerous. They can run it if you can't stop the run. They can throw it if you can't stop the pass. They can shut down the run if that's all you can do. They can shut down the pass if that's all you can do. Right? The Eagles look like a complete team, and they know they have good enough coaching to be able to dial up certain game plans to be able to expose your biggest weakness. And I think we've seen that against Tennessee and the Giants. Two teams that want to play physical, tough games, that want to run the ball, that want to stop the run, and that want to get it to the fourth quarter. Possess the ball. Well, you can't get it to the fourth quarter if you can't make it there, and you can't stop the pass, and you can't pass the ball. So the Eagles have exposed that. The Kansas City Chiefs. I made a statement last week. Even the headline of the video was that the Kansas City Chiefs are overrated / are they as good as we think, right? And again, this is another result. I won't even say game. A result that proves my point, right? They beat the Broncos. They were winning 27-0. Then all of a sudden they get bored. They let their foot off the gas. Mahomes throws interception after interception. And they let the Broncos back in the game almost to the point where there's 5 minutes left. And Russell Wilson gets knocked out of the game. And they're only down by a touchdown. If Russell Wilson stays in the game, the Broncos have a chance to win the game because Brett Rippon was terrible. But they made Russell Wilson, who's looked awful all year. He's looked like a McDonald's cook. Never mind Russell Wilson let him cook. I mean, Russell Wilson was looking like 2015 Russell Wilson out there. 2016 Russell Wilson. He was running around, scrambling, led the team in rushing, threw 3 touchdowns, did whatever he wanted. I mean, the Chiefs' defense a real issue. 28 points allowed against the Denver freaking Broncos. If you bet on the Chiefs, -7.5, -9.5, doesn't even matter. I feel bad for you. Because if you would have told me that the Chiefs scored as many points as they did in this game, I would have said, yeah, you probably cover. When's the last time, have the Broncos scored over 24 points the whole year? I don't even know. 28 points allowed against the Broncos? They can't even score 14. Isn't there a stat where if they would have scored 19 in 9 games, they would be a playoff team right now? I don't know. It's just crazy to me. But another collapse, weird game where they don't cover the spread. Good teams win, great teams cover. The Chiefs don't cover these spreads. I don't know why. It's the defense to me is just, I think, the reason they're not going to go to the Super Bowl or win the Super Bowl this year. As good as Mahomes has been this year, this is the thing for me, right? Everybody now is talking about Jalen Hurts is the MVP. And I don't agree with that. Because the Philadelphia Eagles have the best team in the NFL. The Philadelphia Eagles have the best roster in the NFL to me. And they're extremely well-rounded. And they can make up for Jalen Hurts' deficiencies. They can make up for a Jalen Hurts bad performance or underwhelming performance or even average performance. They can make up for Jalen Hurts not playing his A game. The problem with the Chiefs is that when Patrick Mahomes is not superb, excellent, amazing, awesome, this team almost loses to the Denver Broncos. This team loses to the Indianapolis Colts. When Mahomes is not unbelievable, mistake-free, he made a couple great plays in this game, like that shovel pass, Brett Favre play. That was unbelievable. But he wasn't absolutely perfect. And against the Broncos defense, you're not expected to be perfect. But he throws 3 interceptions in the game. He does throw over 300 yards. He does throw 3 touchdowns. He does score 34 points. They don't cover. They almost let the Broncos come back. That is why, to me, Patrick Mahomes is MVP over a Jalen Hurts. Because he has to be perfect. He has to be A+. And that's also why the Chiefs are overrated. Because so much is on Mahomes. So much pressure is on him to be excellent. And pressure is on the offense to score, to score, to score, to score. Read to dial up perfect plays. The protection to be perfect. Everything has to be perfect on offense. Mahomes has to be perfect. Mahomes has to be MVP every game for this team to win the Super Bowl. And that's just not going to happen against the best teams in the league. And that's why I'll continue to say that I just don't see them being that AFC champion this year. Okay? So that is why it's a double-edged sword. They're overrated, but Mahomes is the MVP. And that's why MVPs don't usually win the Super Bowl. Because usually the MVP is masking something about the team that is not good or that is not perfect. That's the case right here. The team that beat the Chiefs last week, the Cincinnati Bengals, faced their division rival, the Cleveland Browns. And the Cleveland Browns have beaten Joe Burrow every game before this one. The Cincinnati Bengals won this game. But I will say the score, 23-10, extremely misleading. Because what we saw in this Browns game was some mistakes. Early, they go for it on 4th and 1. Kevin Stefanski calls a shot play-action play with Jacoby Brissett coming off the bench, replacing the $200 million man to throw the ball into the end zone on 4th and 1. If you're going to bring Jacoby in, just run a quarterback sneak, okay? If you're going to throw the ball, let Deshaun do it. Why is Deshaun not in on one of the biggest plays of the game, 4th and 1? First drive of the game for the Browns. Go down the field, have a chance to take the lead, make a statement early. We own you. Instead, that was a terrible play call. On top of that, Deshaun threw picks. He was bad against pressure and the blitz. The Bengals blitzed him every third down. And the biggest difference to me in this game for the Bengals beating the Browns was their ability to stop Nick Chubb. Not unpredictable here, right? If you can stop Nick Chubb, you can beat the Browns. It's pretty simple. 2.4 yards per carry in this game. And as I've stated, this is a different defense with DJ Reader. Is there a bigger unsung hero in the NFL, especially on defense, than DJ Reader? This is just a different defense. When they have that big nose tackle in the middle, they stop the run, they make you one-dimensional, they get stops. It's really that simple. It doesn't matter that they no longer have Chidobe Awuzie because you can't run the ball on them. Derrick Henry can't do it. Nick Chubb can't do it. So, that was huge. And the Browns had plenty of opportunities to make this close, plenty of opportunities to cover. This was a game where if you took the Browns, you weren't necessarily on the wrong side because they had so many opportunities. They went down the field, 4th and goal, they don't get it. They throw a fade to Donovan Peoples-Jones. You know, it was just one of those games. But ultimately, the Bengals win. Jamar Chase steps up, 10 catches in the game, over 100 yards in the game. Without T. Higgins, without Tyler Boyd, the Bengals win. Joe Burrow continues to play well. Did throw a pick in this game, but played well in the game. And they score a flea flicker touchdown. Nice little wrinkle to Irwin by Zach Taylor. Nice win by the Bengals. I wouldn't say it was super convincing, but it was just a win against an opponent that they don't usually beat, which is a check mark for me. Next, the Dallas Cowboys. The Cowboys survived against the Texans, and I know that Cowboys haters, or even Cowboys fans, are going to be critical about this game. But to me, let's relax a little bit, right? Every team, every good team, every great team, every champion underestimates opponents once in a while. The thing that drives me nuts about the Kansas City Chiefs is that they do this regularly. The Dallas Cowboys haven't really done that this year. They've stomped opponents. They've covered spreads. Last week, they destroyed the Colts in the second half. They ran away from the Giants. They've been covering these spreads. This week, it just proves why 17 points, covering that number consistently is so hard to do. Because Dallas had to cover that against the Texans, and they just didn't take the Texans seriously. They took them lightly. They know they're more talented. They know the Texans suck. They know that they're the worst team. The Texans, of course, the Battle of Texas, played their asses off, tried to win the game. It was their Super Bowl. The Cowboys played terribly. Dak didn't play well. They didn't run the ball like they usually do. The defense slipped up. Turnovers happen. You're going to have a bad game. You're going to have a down game. That's why we're all human. We make mistakes. We don't play our best. We're not robots. It's not a simulation, right? As many people that think this is the Matrix, people don't always play their A-plus game. And the Cowboys were able to win a game where they played a C type of game. And that's still a good thing. At least they can go back, look at the film, and say, hey, we got to play harder. We got to do this better. That I will say the only negative is that Dak just continues to not really impress me at a high level. I think he's playing fine, but I think if this team wants to win the Super Bowl, go to the Super Bowl, represent the NFC, he needs to play great. And I just don't think he is. They signed T.Y. Hilton today. I don't know what that's really going to do. Maybe just add some depth. Noah Brown actually played good in that game. Next, the Carolina Panthers, the Seattle Seahawks. So the last few weeks, I've been kind of slowly getting off that Seahawks bandwagon. And this is another game. I took Carolina as a best bet. I took Carolina to actually win the game outright, which was probably one of my best picks I've made all year. And I'm going to pat myself on the back for that one. In Seattle, it's difficult to win as a 4-point underdog. They go in, they do it, and they do it in dominant fashion. This Panthers team was up 17-0 in the second quarter. This Panthers team had the control of the game all day long, and it's because they played a physical style of football. What I like about the Panthers right now and how they're playing is they have a clear identity. And this is the thing I will say about the Panthers that gives them an edge in this division over a team like Tampa Bay. Tampa Bay should still win the division, but the Panthers know who they are, and they play to that level, and they play to that style. And Wilkes has them believing in that. The Bucs don't know what they are. Other than Tom Brady winning the game at the last second, they don't know what they are. The Panthers are a tough physical football team with a good defense. Sam Darnold doesn't have to do too much. Just don't turn the ball over, make a couple throws, protect him. The offensive line's playing really well, and beat your face in with the run game. Foreman runs harder than just about any running back in the NFL. They had 14 first downs running the football in this game. The first third down of the game, they ran the ball for a first down, which to me was just the story of the game. And as we continue to see with the Seahawks, they defensively just can't stop anybody. They're bad. They're like the Vikings defense, but their run defense is putrid. You can run all over them, and I think the Niners will on Thursday night. I think it's going to be tough. And I don't know if the Seahawks are ultimately going to make the playoffs, guys. I want them to. I think the Geno Smith story is awesome. I think that trading Russell Wilson and making the playoffs for Pete Carroll would be substantial to his legacy. And I hope that they make the playoffs. As somebody that's from Vancouver, close to Seattle, it's just better. I feel like the vibes are better. But Seattle's going to have to play a tough schedule these next 4 games in order to get in. These next 4. They play San Francisco on Thursday night. That's going to be real tough. Because Niners can run the ball. Niners got a great defense. And there's too much on Geno Smith, too much on Metcalf and Lockett to carry this team to success. Geno's still playing really well, by the way. Shout out to J.C. Horn. That guy playing really good. Kansas City, in Kansas City the week after that. Good luck, right? That's the type of game where maybe Seattle could give the Chiefs a game in a shootout, but you would still count on Mahomes at home to win that, right? After that, the Jets, who have, again, one of the top defenses in the league, if not the best, and a team that can run the ball a bit. I think that's like a lesser version of the Niners that they have to face. That's also at home. That's a cross-country trip for the Jets. So there's a possibility they win that if their defense plays better, but it's going to be tough for them to win that game. And then the Rams to end the year. They should beat the Rams. But I think if they can get to 9 wins, if they could beat the Jets and the Rams, I think they've got a good shot. But the Jets are also fighting for a playoff spot. I don't think they're going to beat the Niners. I don't think they're going to beat the Chiefs. So this is going to be real interesting to what that comes down to. For Carolina, Carolina, again, I love how they play. They're not extremely talented, but they have talent. They've got a good offensive line, a good pass rush, a good pass defense, and a team that can run the ball. And in this division that's absolutely shit, I think them just having an identity is going to give them, it might come down to them versus Tampa Bay in that final game in order to win the division. We'll see. But they play a real tough one against Pittsburgh, which won't be easy. And then I think they play Detroit. I don't know if they play Detroit. I feel like they might. But yeah, that'll be interesting. Our final topic for this review is the Justin Herbert versus Tua conversation. And I couldn't be happier about the result of this Chargers-Dolphins game. I don't know what I would have done if the Dolphins won this game and Tua looked like an MVP. Talk about a marketing campaign this year for Tua. And it started in the offseason. Tyreek Hill building him up, Mike McDaniel building him up, and there's no wonder why we're building him up so much. You can see right through it. You can see right through it. It's because mentally, the guy needs to be built up. He needs positive reinforcement. Because you watch him play, And whenever things aren't perfect for him and things go well from the jump, he struggles in the game. Every time he plays a team that forces him to hold the ball for a little bit longer than he wants to, and that's the only thing that you have to do. In this game in particular, it was a very nice game plan by Brandon Staley to once again clog the middle of the field. And the wrinkle for them was, let's play more press man coverage. Let's play more cover one. Let's have one guy in the middle. Let's have one guy deep to take away Tyreek Hill. And let's force Tua to make more accurate tight window throws. And everyone wants to build up Tua's accuracy. He's accurate when he's playing as an RPO quarterback, when he's able to quickly see his first read and deliver the football. He is not accurate. He's actually extremely inaccurate when he has to hold the ball and create his own timing, his own rhythm, his own window. He's not good at that, right? And when you force him to control the pocket, manipulate the pocket, step up, step away, and make throws under pressure, he gets a little bit scatterbrained and he's not able to make controlled decisions and passes and make the best play. He also struggles to get that ball down the field. You see all the deficiencies with Tua here. The guy had one completion versus man coverage. That was the Tyreek Hill 60-yard touchdown. I continue to say Tyreek Hill's the MVP for this team, not Tua. That was proven again in this game. The guy took a fumble for a touchdown, for God's sake. I mean, come on, what does he have to do? But this is just a clear and obvious thing. Like, people were saying Tua is better than Herbert, which is absolutely ridiculous, ludicrous, unbelievable. If you just watch football from a week-to-week basis, you understand who is better. Justin Herbert's unbelievable. He was unbelievable in this game. I love how he plays because he's a mix of a modern quarterback with a traditional pocket quarterback. He's so good at manipulating pressure, so good at making his offensive line better than it is. How many times did the Dolphins get a free rusher? How many times did the Dolphins have pressure in his face? How many times did he void the pressure, move up in the pocket, move away from the pressure, throw a strike? The guy is a robot in terms of throwing the ball. He never misses. He makes throws outside the pocket, inside the pocket, with pressure in his face, without pressure in his face. He can scramble. I mean, he's superb. He's a top 4 quarterback in the game without a shadow of a doubt. If you don't think so, you are blind. Go get your eyes checked. It's ridiculous. He's unbelievable. I don't want to hear the social media quarterback narrative anymore. I'm not even the biggest Herbert guy, but like this game, man, unbelievable. Like, I think the only thing Herbert is missing from his game, honestly, is that extra, leadership factor, clutch gene that we really haven't been able to see, that we've seen from Joe Burrow, that we haven't seen from Herbert. I actually think Herbert is a better quarterback. When you talk about throwing, passing, extending plays, reading coverage, I think Herbert's a better player. He isn't a better winner yet, but he can get there. I think the mentality is the difference between Burrow and Herbert, which is why I put Burrow above Herbert right now. It's kind of a Brady Manning thing, earlier in their careers for me, but it's like Herbert is amazing. And to even have Tua in the same discussion is ludicrous. And we could see Tua and the Dolphins start to slip here, start to lose some games, and maybe actually miss the playoffs. They play the Bills next week in bad weather. That's not going to be good. They play the Patriots in New England down the stretch, and they play the Packers, and they seem to get it going on offense, and the Dolphins need to figure out their defense. I don't understand why they continue to blitz so much when they've brought in Bradley Chubb and they have Christian Wilkins and Jalen Phillips to rush the passer. It doesn't make sense, but that's my review for week number 14. I hope you guys enjoyed it. If you did, don't forget to Gronk spike the dang like button. Don't forget to subscribe. And also, let me know your 7th best team in the NFL, guys. Let me know in the comment section below. Check out Patreon. Check out the YouTube membership if you want to support me to the next level and become an exclusive BLVer. Thank you guys so much for the support. It's Mitch. Peace.